Everything changed in a matter of seconds. Picture it. The confetti falls, the Lombardi trophy gets hoisted into the night sky, and for one fleeting, beautiful moment, you are at the absolute pinnacle of the sporting world. But here's the dark reality of the National Football League. The exact second that celebration ends, a brutal, unforgiving clock begins to tick. Because the ultimate mountain in professional football isn't just climbing to the summit, it's staying there, while the rest of the league is actively, obsessively plotting your demise. Repeating as Super Bowl champions is a feat so brutally difficult, so physically and psychologically draining, that it literally breaks almost everyone who even attempts it. Welcome to this deep dive explainer. Before we completely unpack the meticulously crafted, ultra-high-stakes blueprint that the Seattle Seahawks are using to attempt this impossible feat, I need you to do something for us. You're watching NFL Nexus, and if you want to truly understand the hidden mechanics, the chess moves of the NFL, I emphatically ask you to subscribe to the channel right now. Hit that like button, drop a comment down below with your thoughts as we go, and please support the incredible work we do here by becoming a channel member. Okay, let's dive into this.
Part 1. The Dark Side Awakens. I want you to set the scene in your mind. It's the immediate aftermath of the Seattle Seahawks' stunning 2025 Super Bowl victory down in Santa Clara. The locker room is still damp with champagne, right? The players are exhausted but ecstatic. But up in the front office, the celebration is already over. The reality they are facing is incredibly stark. Since the turn of the millennium, a span of 2.5 decades, only 2 franchises have managed to successfully defend their title: the New England Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs. That's it. That is the entire list. Because to repeat in the modern NFL requires so much more than just talent. It requires a ruthless, completely unsentimental approach to roster management. And that brings us to the central high-stakes tension of this entire offseason. The ghosts of Seattle's past are looming incredibly large right now. Look, we all remember the legendary 2013 Legion of Boom. They absolutely demolished the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 48. They looked like a dynasty that would rule the league for a decade. But that squad suffered a brutal, systematic teardown in the years that followed, as guys like Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, and Russell Wilson commanded massive market-resetting extensions. The brutal reality of the salary cap crushed their depth. The front office was forced to make impossible mathematical choices, letting critical, foundational pieces just walk out the door. So the agonizing question right now is this: will this 2025 squad suffer that exact same fate? Can lightning truly strike twice? Or is history just waiting in the wings to repeat itself and tear this championship roster down to the absolute studs?
When you meticulously break down the exact personnel lost after both of these championships, the contrast is actually staggering. Let's look at 2013 first. After that triumph, the Seahawks bled influential, foundational talent. They lost Golden Tate, Chris Clemens, Breno Giacomi, Clinton McDonald, Red Bryant. It completely hollowed out the vital middle class of their depth chart. Now, fast forward to the departures following this recent 2025 Super Bowl. The names stepping out of the building this time sound absolutely terrifying for the fan base. They lost their Super Bowl MVP, running back Kenneth Walker III. They lost Kobe Bryant. They lost Boye Mafe. And perhaps most shockingly of all, they lost star cornerback Tariq Woolen. Now, on paper, that looks like a devastating, catastrophic exodus. But in the cold, hyper-calculated world of the NFL, letting go of a superstar like Tariq Woolen might actually be a calculated masterstroke by Executive of the Year, John Schneider. It is a highly unsentimental maneuver. What he's doing is freeing up massive amounts of future capital to secure the team's long-term foundation, rather than doing what so many teams do, overpaying for past production.
14%. I just want to let that number hang in the air for a moment, because this right here is where the narrative shifts dramatically. After that 2013 Super Bowl, Pete Carroll's team lost a staggering 28% of the squad's total snaps heading into the next season. It was a massive structural collapse that fundamentally altered how they substituted and rotated players. But this 2025 team, despite those high-profile names walking out the door that we just talked about, John Schneider executed absolute salary cap magic. Through targeted restructures and beautifully utilizing void years, he managed to retain 86% of the championship snaps. They only lost 14. They kept the core entirely intact. They strategically backloaded deals and even made aggressive, under-the-radar moves like re-signing Rashid Shaheed on a 3-year deal. And Shaheed is absolutely critical here, because his elite vertical speed forces opposing safeties to play deep. It brutally punishes defenses that try to creep down into the box to stop the run game now that Kenneth Walker is gone. So this team wasn't torn down at all. It was selectively, surgically pruned.
Part 2.
defying the Super Bowl hangover.
If there is one absolute, undeniable truth in the National Football League, it is this. Modern dynasties are built and kept alive by retaining ruthless, game-wrecking defensive anchors. The Seattle offense in 2025, even despite the absolute heroics of Jackson Smith-Jigba, was far from perfect. But you know what? They didn't need to be perfect, because they had a defense that instilled pure, unadulterated terror in opposing quarterbacks. And when you look at the terrifying, microscopic details of DeMarcus Lawrence's production last year, including the postseason, you understand exactly why. 8 sacks. Okay, that alone is highly disruptive. But the truly devastating metric, his 6 forced fumbles. Lawrence wasn't just tackling players out there. He was using violent, perfectly timed tomahawk chops and calculated rip moves to brutally separate quarterbacks from the football. Over the course of a 4-quarter game, his heavy hands and his relentless motor inflict a severe psychological and physical toll on opposing right tackles. You watch the tape, and you literally see them begin false starting. They start playing with frantic, panicked footwork. He flat out breaks the will of the opposition. And 2 of those fumbles, he recovered them for touchdowns himself. Having DeMarcus Lawrence return for another year simply cannot be underestimated. He makes this defensive front a living nightmare to game plan against.
And this isn't just a group of players. It's a living, breathing identity. After the Super Bowl in Santa Clara, head coach Mike Macdonald stood before the media and delivered a quote that carries immense cultural weight for this franchise. He said, "They lived up to the dark side today. It's going to go down in the history books. They made it happen. They made it come to life." The dark side defense. It's a moniker they earned through terrifying depth, relentless violence, and flawless execution across all 3 levels of the field. But here's the thing. This identity isn't just some catchy Sunday slogan for the fans. It is forged on quiet Tuesday afternoons in the film room. It is forged in the grueling, exhausting heat of Wednesday padded practices, where defensive backs are actively, violently hunting the football on every single rep. That psychological fear associated with the dark side is the Seahawks' ultimate unquantifiable weapon heading into 2026.
Part 3. The Byron Murphy Leak. Maintaining the dominance of that dark side defense requires massive individual gambles. And that brings us to the 24-year-old linchpin of the defensive line. Enter Byron Murphy II, the number 16 overall pick in the 2024 draft out of Texas, the very first draft pick of the Mike Macdonald era. Murphy is entering year 3. And let me tell you, in the NFL, year 3 is the ultimate crucible. It is a make-or-break season where good players either plateau and fade into the background, or they ascend to global superstardom. Let's methodically break down Murphy's trajectory, because it is fascinating. His quiet rookie campaign featured 36 tackles and a mere half of a sack. He was essentially just a space eater. He was struggling to adjust his anchor against double teams, slowly adapting to the violent speed of the professional game. But year 2? Year 2 was a massive, explosive leap. 62 tackles, 7 sacks, 13 quarterback hits. So what changed? Well, Mike Macdonald brilliantly shifted him, utilizing Murphy much more as a penetrating 3-technique tackle. By altering his alignment and giving him a clearer, more direct path to attack the gaps, Murphy's explosive first step was finally unlocked. He tied for the team lead in sacks alongside proven elite veterans like Leonard Williams and Uchenna Nwosu. He generated a dominant 12.3% pass rush win rate. He didn't just participate in the dark side, he became one of its primary, terrifying enforcers. But despite that pass rushing dominance, there is a minute, bleeding wound in Murphy's game that absolutely must be addressed. While his pass rush commands an elite 77.3 grade from Pro Football Focus, his run defense completely plummeted to a sub-54.0 grade for the 2nd straight season. In the unforgiving trenches of the NFL, that is a glaring liability. And the issue is heavily tied to his pad level. Right at the snap, Murphy occasionally stands too upright. He exposes his chest plate to opposing guards. And look, when you do that in the NFL, you get washed out of your gap by massive double teams, creating wide-open rushing lanes for the offense. Opposing offensive coordinators are going to mercilessly target that specific flaw every single Sunday. Fixing this single mechanical metric is the absolute key to his future. If Murphy can lower his pad level, anchor his lower body more consistently on early downs, and seal that crack in his armor, he takes an all-pro leap. And more importantly, he sets himself up to become the highest-paid defensive tackle in the entire NFL next summer. The financial and competitive stakes for him literally couldn't possibly be higher. Part 4. The $100 million Ultimatum. Now, if you want high stakes, we have to pivot sharply to the offensive side of the ball, because what John Schneider's doing at the quarterback position right now is the highest stakes gamble of the entire offseason across the whole league. It is a crushing, almost suffocating amount of pressure, and it is resting squarely on the shoulders of one man, Sam Darnold. Seattle landed Darnold in March 2025 on a 3-year, $100.5 million contract. He came in, he stabilized a fragile locker room, and he just won his Super Bowl. Usually, when a quarterback hoists the Lombardi Trophy, he is immediately rewarded with a massive market-resetting contract extension. It's the unwritten rule of the NFL, right? You win the ring, you get the bag. But not in Seattle. Despite winning the ultimate prize, the Seahawks are flat-out refusing to offer Darnold an extension this summer. They are essentially handing him a $100 million ultimatum. They are stripping away his long-term security, forcing him to play out his current contract, and demanding that he bet entirely on himself. The psychological weight of being asked to play a prove-it year after winning a Super Bowl is virtually unprecedented in modern football.
And the reason behind this ruthless front office decision comes down to one massive, glaring liability: 20 turnovers. It is a chaotic flaw that simply cannot be ignored by a championship-caliber front office. During the 2025 regular season, Sam Darnold led the entire league in giveaways. And these weren't just harmless punts downfield on 3rd and long either. We are talking about forced, hero ball interceptions thrown directly into tight double coverage in the red zone. We are talking about holding the football a critical half-second too long in the pocket, leading to devastating blindside strip sacks. We're talking about erratic, panicky footwork when the interior pressure starts to close in on him. You simply cannot hand a blank check, $200 million of guaranteed money, to a quarterback who actively jeopardizes the football 20 times a season, no matter how good the dark side defense is at bailing him out. Seattle's front office is looking Darnold right in the eye and saying, look, you won us a ring, but we still do not fully trust your decision-making.
And the context of this high-stakes negotiation gets absolutely fascinating when you zoom out and look at the wider financial arms race happening across the league. Consider the eerily parallel journeys of 2018 draft classmates and former Carolina Panthers teammates Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. Both of these guys were highly touted prospects. Both were traded away and completely discarded by their original franchises. Both completely stabilized their careers as backups in the NFC West, and both eventually signed prove-it deals to reclaim their status as starters. But right now, Baker Mayfield is in the final year of a $100 million deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he is reportedly seeking a staggering $55 to $60 million a year in his next massive extension. If Mayfield resets the market with that kind of astronomical money, it establishes a terrifying financial floor for Darnold. Darnold should be actively praying that Mayfield gets paid, because it perfectly frames exactly what Darnold's agent will demand if he can just clean up his footwork and eliminate those 20 turnovers this season.
Part 5. Echoes of the Boom.
To truly understand how this franchise is operating right now, you have to examine the overarching, ruthless philosophy guiding this entire organization under the command of Mike Macdonald. It isn't just about assembling raw athletic talent. It is about absolute, unwavering alignment from top to bottom. They call it the 12-as-1 Foundation. Step 1 of this master plan was hiring the 38-year-old defensive guru Mike Macdonald, establishing a brutally efficient, brand-new culture inside the VMAC building. Step 2 was executing surgical draft classes, bringing in young, hungry defensive stars like Byron Murphy, A.J. Barner, and Nick Amonwari to build the physical foundation of the dark side. But Step 3 is heavily overlooked by the national media, and it is the absolute continuity on the coaching staff. Retaining offensive line coach John Benton is arguably the single most critical move of the entire offseason. Benton's absolute mastery of zone blocking principles is essential for the second-year development of guard Gray Zabel. Zabel desperately needs Benton's precise instruction on hand placement and footwork to counter the complex stunt packages he'll face in this division. Furthermore, they promoted Brian Fleury to offensive coordinator to ensure the offensive vernacular remains absolutely identical to last year. Every single piece inside that building, from the scouting department to the offensive line room, is moving in exact calculated synchronization.
Which brings us directly to Macdonald's defining, overarching mantra for this team. If you can't get everybody going in the same direction, you really don't have a chance. I really want you to let that sink in for a second. It is a profound, non-negotiable statement of purpose. Think back to the fractured egos, the passive-aggressive media leaks, and the deep locker room divides that eventually dismantled that legendary 2013 Legion of Boom squad. Mike Macdonald and John Schneider are actively, intentionally engineering a psychological environment specifically designed to prevent that exact type of internal decay. They do not request buy-in, they absolutely demand total, unyielding unity. If you are focused on your individual brand over the overarching mission of the team, you will be swiftly and ruthlessly sent out the door.
Part 6. A Dynasty in the Balance.
But look, internal unity is only half the battle, because outside the heavily fortified walls of the VMAC building, a massive storm is gathering. The unforgiving nature of the environment they play in simply cannot be overstated. The NFC West is an absolute bloodbath. It is a constantly escalating arms race. and the immediate threats looming over Seattle right now are terrifying. Look at this multi-year timeline on the screen. It has been a grueling, physically bruising climb just to get out of the divisional basement. In 2021, they were dead last under Pete Carroll. Then they fought up to second, slipped back to third, battled all the way back to second, until finally violently breaking through the ceiling to first place and winning the Super Bowl in 2025. They clawed their way to the absolute pinnacle. But staying there, heavily armed rivals like the Los Angeles Rams are stacking their roster with shiny new toys, explicitly designing a defense to hunt Sam Darnold. The Rams are heavily investing in elite edge rushers, specifically to test Gray Zabel and the Seattle offensive line, and they are drafting versatile, rangy defensive backs to neutralize Seattle's vertical passing attack. They are building a superpower down in Los Angeles that is precisely calibrated to dethrone the Seahawks.
Which leaves us with one chilling, completely unresolved question. Will John Schneider's calculated cap restructures, the terrifying bone-crushing dominance of the dark side defense, and this massive $100 million ultimatum on Sam Darnold actually secure a modern dynasty? Or will the unforgiving, hyper-competitive reality of the NFC West arms race swallow them whole? I want to hear exactly what you think. Head down to the comments section right now and let's deeply debate Seattle's ultimate fate. Can they survive this gauntlet and go back-to-back? Let me know. And before you go, remember to support the channel. Subscribe to NFL Lexus, like this explainer, and become a channel member to get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to our deepest NFL analysis. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.